Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. Hope you're all doing awesome today, and as usual, it's time for more Reddit stories, so let's get into it. Can't buy a homeless man a pizza? Fine by me. Back in the early 2000s, I worked at a well-known US pizza delivery chain store. For anyone who has ever worked in the US food service industry, you're probably familiar with what a failing dumpster fire of a restaurant looks like. On many nights, it was literally just me and one other driver taking care of the whole restaurant. Breaks were out of the question because the restaurant would be completely unattended. The recent franchise buyers were complete and total idiots who would show up unannounced to yell at me, and the overwhelming majority of our customers ordered once and then never again. We had pizza deliveries taking 90+ minutes, people taking them back to the store. It was a nightmare. And I got paid $8.50 an hour to run shifts. One night I was running a shift and it was particularly dead. Such nights were not uncommon and they were basically the only reason I still worked there. Well, 11 p.m. rolls around as I'm kind of standing by the phones watching the clock tick down, and a clearly homeless man walks in. He introduces himself as Ricky and asks if we had any leftover pizzas that nobody picked up. I apologetically inform him that we didn't. He smiles and thanks me anyway, but then, since I'm in such a good mood, I ask him what he wants. He says he likes the meat lover's pizza. Since he isn't a sociopath like some of our customers, I'm looking at you, Mr. Teriyaki Bacon and Sardines guy. I say I'll be happy to make him one. Ricky at this point is so thankful that he sits down in one of our chairs and starts bouncing up and down like a little kid. I put the order in and pay for it myself. It ends up being $12 or basically an hour and a half of work for me. Good deal in my mind. Ricky watches me and applauds my dough slapping and spinning skills. As the pizza comes out of the oven, in comes the area manager, the brother of the franchise owner. He begins shouting as usual and accuses me of stealing from the store. As he goes into his tirade, one of our few regulars, Henry, comes in. Henry hears the tirade and looks very uncomfortable. I finally tell the area manager that I paid for the pizza out of my own pocket. Area manager shouts a bit more, calls me a liar, says the count better be right that night, and leaves. I apologize to Henry and Ricky, who both tell me, an 18-year-old kid, yeah, work sucks, doesn't it? Ricky gets his pizza, Henry gets his, and they leave around the same time. I see them talking outside. The next night, Henry calls me for an order. This was unusual because he was generally a once-a-week guy. I also found it unusual that he ordered a meat lover's pizza instead of his usual Supreme. I took it, made it, and 20 minutes later, Henry calls again apologetically to cancel it. I say okay. In a bizarre coincidence, Ricky rolled in right around that time asking for a pizza. I just so had one that was going to go uneaten sitting under the heater. And so began the nightly dance. Henry would call, order a meat lover's pizza, and I'd make it. Henry would then call again, cancel, and Ricky would coincidentally roll in. Every night, same time. You could time it to the second. This went on for months. Eventually, the area manager caught wind, because a bootlicker coworker of mine narked on me, but I responded that I was just doing my job as instructed. They then stopped putting me into the schedule rotation, in a quiet firing sort of way, but I really didn't care. The restaurant went under about a year later. Obviously, it wasn't all Henry, but I was glad to see it go. Crazy entitled neighbor freaks out about me, quote, watching her kids. So a bit of background first. I broke my ankle back in May. I've never broken anything before and I managed to break my bone in 2 places, so healing has been slow and new to me. I was told I needed to keep my foot up to avoid swelling, and frankly, you didn't have to tell me twice, as putting my ankle down to the ground level felt like all my blood came rushing back and it was going to explode, and so it was super painful for a while. I'm getting to the stage where it finally no longer hurts to sit up normally with my foot on the ground, and thank God because I'm beyond tired of laying down. I can really only exist in 2 places in my home comfortably now, my bed and our couch. But moving me from the bed to the couch is a lot for me and my boyfriend, so we only do it on weekends and I work from home in bed during the week. So since I'm tired of laying down and now in a phase where I should be working on movement with my ankle, I've been sitting on the edge of my bed for a bit every day to eat, work, move my foot, etc. At the side of my bed is a giant window, and my boyfriend opens the window daily for me so I can enjoy the sunlight. So today I had been doing things as normal, sitting on the edge of the bed to work and just enjoying the summer sun. I live in a condo building, so a lot of times kids will play outside in the parking area, and I hear them so much, not super loudly by any means, that I just zone them out when I work. I can see them sometimes, but most of the time they are over in an area I can't really see from my window. My boyfriend had just gotten back from the grocery store and he was definitely not in the best mood, since the air conditioning on the car stopped working and it was painfully hot outside. He was mumbling to himself about having to go outside when it's a bit cooler out and take a look at it, when we heard a pretty aggressive knock on the door. Everything from this point forward is my boyfriend retelling me the story, since I was in the bedroom and not near the door. As soon as he opens the door, she goes off instantly. "You need to tell that woman to stop staring at my kids. It's creepy." My boyfriend finds this incredibly hilarious, even though he has no idea what in the world she's talking about. And his first reaction was to immediately laugh and just respond, "What?" as best as he can without him losing it. She did not like this reaction and started on a tangent, saying things along the lines of, it's weird for her to be sitting there staring out the window during the day, and that, quote, me, needs to come out here and explain herself. And if I didn't come out there and apologize and stop, she would report me for being creepy, and how my boyfriend was likely equally as creepy. My boyfriend was over this as fast as it started, and once he could pull himself together, informed her that I could not come to the door, and she needed to stop jumping to weird conclusions. Of course, she asks why I don't have time to come to the door, but plenty of time to stare at kids. He tells her I'm sitting on the edge of the bed like that because I'm stuck in bed, due to a broken ankle and I can't walk. As she starts to go off about not believing him, he simply shuts the door in her face. He said she knocked on the door on and off over the next hour before giving up. A little later, my boyfriend walked outside to deal with the car air conditioning, and decided to look into the window I was sitting in front of. He said you can see me, but you need to get pretty close, and I'm clearly looking down most of the time, and when I have my laptop in my hand, you can clearly see the top of it. He said it's more creepy that she came this close to the window to watch me. She hasn't come back again, and I hope she never does. We have window shades that slide down from the bottom and top, so we decided to switch them so this weird lady can't look inside. Just a bit sad because I did enjoy having the trees visible in the background while I worked. Update. This morning my boyfriend noticed that one of the older ladies from a lower unit was having issues with carrying her groceries in again, so he went out to help. Usually when this happens, they chat for a bit about life. He mentioned our run-in with Crazy the other day, and she actually knew exactly who he was talking about. Apparently, she got into a spat with another unit over their numbered parking spot. She was parking in it, and they had been pretty kind with warnings over the past few weeks, and never went to have it towed. She ended up hitting another car parked in the spot over, and then moved her car away. The owners of the spot are saying it's her car that did the damage, and she's claiming it was them because it's, quote, their spot. The older lady knew about this because her son had a dash cam on his car. He has a motorcycle in his spot with his car, so he faces it towards the motorcycle, and it caught this on camera, and the owners of the car asked if he'd share the video. Crazy doesn't know about the video yet. So I think the real reason Crazy is so concerned about me looking out the window is that she assumed I saw the accident and saw her car parked in the wrong spot, and maybe thought harassing me would keep me quiet? I'm not sure. Despite this, we did call and report it to our condo association, just in case, and they are usually pretty good about acting on stuff like this. We haven't seen her since. Am I the a-hole for shutting down access to my property in lakefront? Background. I recently purchased several acres of wooded property, a good portion of which juts out into a rather large lake. My little peninsula gives me some great lakefront. There is a smallish strip of beach, a dock, and a few boat slips. Because of the woods surrounding the lake, I'm the only lot for several miles that has access to the water, without going bushwhacking through the trees. Apparently over the years, my neighbors have gotten used to taking their boats down my driveway to launch, or going and spending time on the beach. I bought the place over the holidays, and just recently moved in at the beginning of the summer. And before anyone introduced themselves to me, I was met with a regular stream of traffic cutting through my lot to the water. At first, I thought it was because I purchased the property and didn't move in right away, that everyone just assumed the house and land was vacant and could take advantage until that changed. So I started walking out when I saw people and letting them know that I lived there now, and also making a point to make it obvious the house was lived in. Not much changed, so I got blunt and started asking people directly not to trespass on the property. I wish I could say my direct approach solved the problem, but people would still trek right through. I put up a fence and put up a sign stating private property, as well as a sign letting folks know that my dogs were on the property. Once I put the fence up, I started allowing the dogs to roam the property and didn't want any trouble. Unfortunately, my neighbors took the fence and the dogs, despite the fact that I owned the dogs well before moving to this lot, as an act of aggression. I had a neighbor come to my door and literally yell at me because my dogs barked at her kids when they tried to pull their raft up onto my beach. That same neighbor advised me that my lot has always been the neighborhood entrance to the lake. Apparently, a number of the neighbors built the fire pit and put the tables and rocks and park-like features out there. In chatting with a couple of the friends I've managed to make in my new neighborhood, they confirmed that what the neighbor said was true, that my property has always been more of a park than a private lot. Anyway, while I feel bad that the convenience of the nearby lake access has been cut off, I live by myself, and I'm personally not comfortable with anyone and everyone just traipsing through my yard. On one hand, I feel like it's absolutely my decision to restrict access to my lot, but on the other, I'm wondering if I'm breaking some sort of unspoken rule of access that was established before I ever got here. Am I the a-hole for closing off my property? Edit to add, I'm not asking for legal advice, and I'm well within my rights to close down access to the property. There is no easement and I own the shoreline. The neighbors took me letting the dogs out on the property as a sign of aggression. They didn't literally take my dogs. The lake has 2 public parks, complete with boat launches and docks that are open for anyone's use, the nearest of which is a few miles down the road from the property. If a person were wanting to launch a boat, it would take about 15 minutes longer to do so by going to the public launch versus down my driveway. So even if all these people have been doing this for years, they're just gonna have to get used to the change and drive the extra 15 minutes to go launch their boats. It's not even that big of a deal, they're just gonna have to get used to it. And I don't blame OP at all for restricting access. I would do the exact same thing if I was in OP's position too. People using the property as if it was public was nothing more than a privilege anyway. Alright guys, thank you for watching, I appreciate it. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and also subscribe if you haven't yet for more Reddit shenanigans. So have an awesome day, I'll see you all next time.